Hakeem Olufemi Gbajabiamila. God bless you all.
It's really worrisome that our communication is ignored.
House engages players in the oil industry over revocation of oil licenses.
Yes, we will try to ensure we protect you as much as possible, but we will also try not to jeopardize the operation.
And lawmakers assure indigenous service providers of a level playing field with their foreign competitors. It's good to be with you once again on another fresh package of House Ticket coming your way on the NTA Parliament. In this episode, we shall review committee activities that took place recently in the House of Representatives. On the package, therefore, House Committee on Environment sits with stakeholders as lawmakers deliberate environmental challenges occasioned by oil spills while lamenting the hardship in the Niger Delta due to these and other issues. In other committee engagements, lawmakers investigate the revocation of oil mining leases by federal government, oil leakages and the attendant oil revenue losses, not neglecting international engagements, politics and the economy. Stay tuned for details of these engagements and many more right after this short break.
If we set our minds right, embrace each other in love and brotherhood, we will come through these troubling times. We will survive, we will recover, and then we will thrive. One nation under God, free, peaceful, and prosperous.
Thanks for staying tuned. Let us begin the program with reports from the committee rooms where the Committee on Petroleum Resources Upstream, health institutions as well as local content development hold talks with State Minister Petroleum Resources and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC). During these meetings, lawmakers lament continuous absence of heads of agencies when invited for discussions over national matters. The reports are compiled and presented from the studios.
The Representative Musa Serkin Adar-led Committee on Petroleum Resources Upstream recently lamented the lack of cooperation from key players in the oil industry in discussions and investigations initiated by the House to get to the bottom of certain national issues. These concerns were voiced during a recent gathering of stakeholders to investigate the circumstances leading to the revocation of oil mining lease OML 123, 124, 126 and 137.
Privileged organizations in Nigeria could not keep records because as far as I'm concerned, they don't keep records. If they have records, why is it difficult for them to give us? Clark, give me the letters that we have written. We have written 3 letters to them at intervals of 3 months each, requesting for their budget performance, list of all list of all assets they are holding and managing on behalf of Nigeria, list of their liabilities, what are the contracts they are executing, who are the contractors, who are the companies, what is the duration of the contract, what's the progress made, how much do they generate from the sales of crude oil that they produce, how much do they manage on behalf of Nigeria through other joint ventures. Until today, there's no response from that. Time has come that we must speak.
A key agency of government, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC), had refused to honor the invitation of the committee to the annoyance of the committee.
They called me that they could not come because they don't want to prejudice the investigation. Why? Because the matter is in Supreme Court. I wonder how a matter that happened last week will be in Supreme Court. Unless if this thing has happened a year ago, all of you covered up.
The Honorable Minister of State Petroleum Resources, as well as the representative of the Department for Petroleum Resources (DPR), were, however, at the investigative hearing. The minister presented the federal government's perspectives and reasons for the revocation of the oil mining leases.
I have just consulted with the director of DPR, who also told me that he is not aware I am not aware of any such matter. But the matter of ADAX was not commenced by me. Everybody knows that this asset has been suboptimally managed from the beginning of the acquisition to this moment.
The minister said the lack of proper management of the property by the Chinese-owned ADAX Petroleum contravenes petroleum laws of Nigeria and constitutes revenue loss to government. The mismanagement of the assets was made public through a whistleblower to the Attorney General of the Federation, who in turn had written to the presidency with the information while recommending a revocation of the license. The minister explained that the revocation followed due processes as the presidency had notified the Ministry of Petroleum Resources to verify the allegations of mismanagement through the Department for Petroleum Resources, DPR. The minister also informed the committee that the license had been re-awarded to another company, a situation which is being challenged by the NNPC.
NNPC is not in a position to ask for a withdrawal of a revocation granted duly. NNPC also said in their prayer C, NNPC to negotiate the exit of ADAX and replacement with an appropriate PSC. So NNPC too is asking for the same revocation, but in other words. So where is the about turn? Mr. President took the right action on the matter according to the laws of our land.
The NNPC, which is opposing the recommendation of the state minister on the revocation of the OMLS, was not on ground to give reasons for its dissenting voice on the matter. This is even as lawmaker alleged complicity as it noticed revenue leakages.
We also heard that they wrote a letter wanting to negotiate the exit of ADAX. How can you negotiate the exit of ADAX when they are owing us so much? When the license is supposed to be revoked and you're writing a letter for negotiation, that means that somebody somewhere is hiding something.
I think to a certain extent, the Ministry of Petroleum Resources is under your direct supervision, by extension the President. So any parastatal under the ministry, I think should also be able to follow suit through synergy building and a clear maybe interface with each other. This must stop and this must not be, must discontinue.
The chairman of the committee ended the investigations for that day, but not before calling on absentee agencies and companies to be patriotic and show up on another scheduled date for the continuation of the hearing.
Our message to all those that have failed to appear before us as invited, namely the NNPC, ADAX Petroleum Company Limited, Castec Engineering Limited, Salvic Petroleum Limited. We are giving them 2 weeks from today. We will schedule this meeting from now to 2 weeks, 2 weeks calendar days to appear before this committee, and we'll continue with our business.
Indigenous catering company.
Still on investigative hearings, the Committee on Local Content Development and Monitoring commenced hearing on the activities and corporate attitude of ExxonMobil against indigenous service providers, case study being on catering service contracts. At this gathering also, lawmakers yet again frowned at the refusal of heads of government agencies to honor House summons. The investigation was slated for 2 days. The absence of the Group General Manager of the National Petroleum Investment Management Services at day 1 of the hearing was disappointing for the lawmakers.
In his letter to us, the reason he gave for not being present here was that he has other operational matters. I respect the fact that ExxonMobil is a multinational company. I respect the fact that, yes, we should give them some credence on their operations and all that, but they must operate based on our laws.
We feel that we need to see the person in charge that can give a good account of every question. The problem we have today in this country is just that we have delayed in settling some issues that comes to the front burner immediately. We keep buying time, delaying day for day, and today, look at where we have found ourselves. Unsettled national issues not being handled.
In view of that, the committee sent back the representative of the GGM and moved a motion to the effect that the GGM makes an appearance in person on the second day of the hearing, failing which the committee will invoke constitutional provision to force the GGM to appear. Reasons for the absence of the managing director of ExxonMobil was given by his representative, the executive director of finance, as due to the mandatory 14 days quarantine stipulated by the COVID-19 protocols of the country. There was a comment on that.
We can accept the appearance of the executive director, which is a high-ranking member of the organization, but nonetheless, I've been in several committees, Mr. Chairman, and since the advent of COVID, this has been a recurring excuse by most organizations that they are observing the 14 days mandatory isolation. So we should require the particulars, the traveling documents of the managing director so as to establish the veracity of their claims.
The executive director of finance of ExxonMobil, who also doubles as the board member that receives reports from the procurement and facilities of the company, was given the opportunity to respond to the issues under investigation. The petitioners, in stating their case, spoke under a platform of indigenous catering farms.
Why the indigenous firm came up is because of some of the criteria that are there. For example, ISO is one of the criteria a company should have for you to be qualified to bid. And secondly, there's also the criteria of you must have experience, years of experience, which the indigenous companies, many of them, do not have these experiences, probably because they are new. So when you cut it off by saying, if you don't have previous job experiences, you will not, it will reduce your mark in the scoring. Each item that is in the tender has a score. So by so doing, you're already placing the indigenous companies at a disadvantaged position, even before the process.
This is Parliament writing to you, stating the concerns of about 80% of our indigenous caterers, saying that if you continue this process, they will be deliberately kept out, and that it was skewed to benefit a particular company who they claim is not exactly indigenous and is masquerading as an indigenous company just to beat our laws.
The contract tender itself, that the catering that is subject of this investigation, is being handled by 3 parties: the ExxonMobil companies, NAPIMS, and the NCDMB. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, that ExxonMobil can do on its own. We don't have the authority, we don't have the GOA requirement, so we really can't do anything on our own. So as we go into this clarification, understand that whatever it is I am saying is really bounded by the fact that there are 3 parties running the contract or trying to implement the contract.
The investigation continues as the committee adjourned the hearing to resume on the 19th of May 2021.
Because of the concerns of our indigenous caterers, you should suspend the procurement process and come before the House to clarify the issues that were brought before us. We would want you to provide before this committee communications and documents with NAPIMS and NCDMB about non-performance of the contractor you made reference to, payment details, and all other details you made reference to that will help this committee in arriving at a decision.
The articles and memorandum of that company should be forwarded to us. And secondly, Mr. Chairman, I will also apply that clerk should write CAC to unveil to remove the veil of that company, so that Parliament will be convinced in what they are doing, so that we are not just hijacked by just mere statements.
If you're just joining us, you are onto the program House Ticket, coming your way every week on the NTA Parliament. We'll be reviewing committee engagements with the executive arm over numerous matters bordering on local content development, crude oil dividends, amongst others. We shall continue with reports from committee rooms, this time reporting the Committee on Environment when it sat jointly with the Committee on Host Communities to host players in the oil and gas industry as well as environment. This was in line with resolutions adopted when the House considered a motion on pollution in the environment and farmland in the Niger Delta region that destroys sources of livelihood. The Joint Committee had been mandated by the House to carry out an effective inspection and comprehensive assessment at the communities involved in Ogoniland, including other host communities in the Niger Delta region, with a view to ensuring strict compliance with NOSDRA Act, as well as environmental guidelines and standards of the petroleum industry in Nigeria. The committee was also mandated to liaise with Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency NOSDRA, Department of Petroleum Resources DPR, Shell Development Company of Nigeria Limited, and AGIP over the matter. The Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency NOSDRA was the first to respond to the issues at stake.
The status of 24-inch Ogoda brass manifold pipeline at Iwama in Bayelsa State is the first one that I want to take, and that was a spill incident that happened in a location owned by the Nigerian Ajib Oil Company, and that is in Bayelsa State. The spill incident occurred and was reported to the agency on May 18, 2020. And following the notification of the incident, the agency responded as follows. A joint investigation visit was conducted with the relevant stakeholders, the operator, Bayelsa State Minister of Environment, the community representatives. And the substance there, the spill was crude oil.
According to NOSDRA, the joint investigation team determined the cause of oil spill, attributing it to corrosion, and a recommendation was made by the agency after its visit to the site.
The recommendation of the joint investigation team was that Nigerian Ajib should clean up the impacted site. Because it was corrosion, and as usually the practice in most times, the community where such thing happens is given an opportunity to nominate a contractor that will clean up the area from among them, from around there, as may be jointly agreed by the Community Development Committee. And interestingly, the chairman of the Community Development Committee nominated a contractor that cleaned up the place. We have taken the place, the post cleanup inspection of that area in particular has been carried out. The site has not been closed out yet or certified because we still have to do some laboratory analysis of the samples grabbed to ascertain how clean is clean, and how clean is in respect of meeting the required set limits for any remediated oil impacted site.
Another oil spill was in Rivers State, and the joint investigation team, which comprised of NOSDRA, community stakeholders, SPDC, and Rivers State Ministry of Environment, arrived at a conclusion after investigation that the oil spill there was as a result of sabotage and that Shell Petroleum Development Company should effect recovery and carry out a cleanup exercise of the area. However, the recommendations have not been executed. Questions were put to NOSDRA alongside comments regarding the roles of the agencies and oil companies in the host communities.
Most of these IOCs and exploratory companies, are they not in agreement with such provisions? Because I know that these treaties have been ratified by Nigeria and we are practicing in those agreements. Why is it becoming too difficult for the polluter to pay when they actually are the ones who caused the damage and injury to the host community? What is your job as the regulator, as NOSDRA? Can you not say that you are complacent? Have you been using the big hammer? Because we can't keep waiting for special intervention funds like HIPREP before you can do the needful.
Some of the provisions that to make the agency very vibrant, active, are still not there yet, but they have been provided for in the amendment to this act. The bill was first of all sent in 2004 to the National Assembly. There were some things that ought to be there that will make it be able to bite and then be very, very active. They were not there. They were removed at that time, and we made a complaint. They said, test it first and come back. We tested it for about 2-3 years. We have been on the amendment to the Establishment Act since 2008.
In one of your submissions, that you were able to recover about 15 barrels, leaving where? The 33 barrel. In what grant? You know the implication of that. And then you also mentioned that as it is today, you mentioned this particular place in Ogoniland, I don't know the land where you go, that you are unable to even effect the remediation, all because there is a particular, there's an artisanal, whatever you mentioned. Let me tell you, there's no way we can take all these excuses from you as per such an environment. You owe a responsibility by the act that is passed by this National Assembly to salvage that place and insist on processes. If you cannot do that, somebody else has to take that responsibility, because the people from that region, they are constantly suffering from environmental degradation.
The committee further reacted to the absence of the Director General of the Department for Petroleum Resources, DPR, and turned down the presentation of the representative as the lawmakers insisted he appears in person. Shell and Ajib were also absent at the meeting.
We'll keep on giving them invitation. Can we change that to parliamentary summons with bench warrant attached to? You see, except there are radical things done, we won't change Nigeria. If we put a summon, not an invitation, be here or let him be arrested wherever he's seen and be brought here. That's the only way. And I want to see a date when some company will be fined or banned or whatever because of pollution. You can't do this thing in the United States, you can't do it in elsewhere.
The activities of these companies have completely devastated the entire environment in the entire Niger Delta. And so, what is happening here appears to me that that issue of levity, the people being treated with levity, is also being carried to this hearing, and we will not accept that. I will urge all the agencies of government to submit all relevant documents that we are asking for. NOSDRA, you have done part of it. Other documents that are required from the questions that have been asked you, we expect that you bring those documents by the next hearing. Then for the companies that have refused to come, we are used to them. In the Niger Delta, that's what they do, but we don't believe that they will get away with it this time around.
A visit to the environmental sites will be conducted by the Committee on a Fact-Finding Mission so as to aid in detailing the committee's report at the end of the assignment. We'll take our last segment on this package with recent activities of the Speaker, Lawmaker Femi Gbajabiamila. He hosted the President of Parliament of Sao Tome and Principe in his office recently. There were talks on political and economic ties, agricultural boost and partnership in free trade zones, joint maritime security force, amongst others. The two speakers of the Parliament canvassed for stronger ties between the two countries. Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila seized the opportunity to invite his guests to join the Conference of Speakers of African Parliaments, which will hold its inaugural meeting later in October this year. Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila also wished Sao Tome and Principe a peaceful electoral process when the country will elect new political office holders, coming up on 17th July 2021. Another visit made to the office of the Speaker in recent times was by the candidate from Mali vying for the President of the Pan-African Parliament, Mrs. Haidara Aïchata. If she emerges victorious at the polls coming up soon, she will become the first woman to occupy the seat in the last 20 years. Her visit to the Speaker was to solicit for votes in the upcoming Pan-African Parliament. The Speaker promised Nigeria's support for the Malian candidate as he recounted the same gesture enjoyed by Nigeria from Mali when late Honorable Bethel Amadi had won the seat for President of the Pan-African Parliament in 2012. The Speaker also seized the opportunity of the contestant's visit to canvass for Senator Bala Ibn Allah, who is contesting for the position of Vice President in the Pan-African parliamentary elections. The two ended discussions encouraging and highlighting the need to support each other as countries with mutually beneficial relationships. A last outing on this segment is the engagement of the Speaker when he hosted the management team of the Standard Chartered Bank, led by the Chief Executive Manager. The Speaker had voiced concerns over the worries and complaints by Nigerians over hidden charges and high interest rates, which bank charges on loans and other facilities. He also lamented the exploitative marketing style of the Nigerian banks. The Speaker then called on the banks to address these issues while expressing the readiness of the House to make legislations that will aid in bringing ease to the common man in his dealings with banks in Nigeria. The CEO of the Standard Chartered Bank assured the House of the bank's commitment to the growth of the Nigerian economy, just as he agreed with the Speaker that marketing of products should be done ethically. Many thanks for staying tuned to the program. House Speaker will be back again with more education on the role of the legislative arm of government in a democratic dispensation. Stay safe always and have a lovely time.